Hey, this is Joe and Brad. Why don't you crack open a beer with us while we go over gun safety? No, not really. We doing that? There's 5 rules here. The first rule is no alcohol or drugs. If you've consumed alcohol within 8 hours of the gun range, you're disqualified. You cannot shoot. If you're on drugs, pot, pills, whatever, even if it's a prescription pill like Vicodin, it's probably best that you don't operate heavy machinery or weapons. Now for the basic gun safety rules. Joe?
Rule number 2. Rule number 2. Always keep your muzzle pointed in the appropriate direction, a safe direction. This is not a safe direction. This is not a safe direction. Up at the sky or down at the ground. Those are the only 2 safe directions in which to point the muzzle of your weapon. You will only raise and point your weapon downrange when you are on a range, no one is in front of you, and you are intending to destroy whatever's in front of you. Does that sound good?
It's good for number 2.
Alright.
Number 3. Keep your finger off the trigger. When you have a gun in your hand, you do not put your finger on the trigger until you're on the target. So if I'm taking a target right here, I'm on the range, I'm ready to fire, I'll place the weapon off safe, put my finger on the trigger when I'm on target, and pull and fire the shot. If you have a weapon that's pointed up or down, you always have your finger off the trigger. This is not appropriate. Don't do it, because we'll see it and it's a big safety violation.
No one wants to negligent discharge. Negligent discharge is when you actually slip that finger inside the trigger well, discharge the weapon in a direction other than intended. That is called a negligent discharge. We don't want any of those.
Nope.
Rule number 4.
Backstop.
Backstop.
Always check your backstop. So we're going to be on a range with some berms, big dirt berms. Those are our backstops. Those are the only safe places to fire. You want to make sure it's clear. We will have cold ranges where people will go down the range, check their targets. So when the range is cold, there's no handling of weapons. All weapons are to be unloaded, placed on safe with the chambers open, on the table, and you don't touch them until everybody gets back. In the range, it's called hot. But the backstop is important. There are houses kind of down the road, so we don't want you shooting off to the right side of a backstop. For instance, shooting at a squirrel or whatever, because the bullet's just going to keep traveling and they'll go quite far.
Rule number 5, the last rule. Always treat this weapon as if it's loaded. At any point in time, you have the capacity to end someone else's life. Whether you think your weapon's cleared, you cleared it 100 times, you will always treat this weapon as if it's loaded. Any one of these rules that we've discussed already kind of is going to fall secondary to that one. You never want to use this as if it's a joke and pointed at Brad, or him pointed at me. You never want to use it as an extension of your being to point to something as if you're describing it or try to draw someone's attention to it. You're not going to swing it around, you're not going to sword fight it. You will treat it like it's loaded at all times. Magazine in or out, the weapon will be safe and cleared. If you are going to use this and discharge around downrange, you're going to grab a magazine, you'll obviously insert it into the well, but you're going to do a visual inspection of your weapon. You're going to make sure that the bolt is clear. Once you're ready to engage, you bring it forward, and once you're finished utilizing the weapon will go on safe. You will check and visually inspect the bolt. You'll make sure there are no rounds hanging in there stuck, because again, the weapon is a deadly thing. And then you're going to place it on safe, and you will point it back in a safe direction, safely as possible.
Good point. Good safety rules. So those are the 4 basic safety rules. Finger off the trigger, know your backstop. Your weapon is always loaded.
Point it in a safe direction.
Point it in a safe direction. Hitting back on pointing in a safe direction. If my finger's on the trigger and I have a negligent discharge, nobody's going to get hurt as long as that weapon is in the safe direction. So when you're loading, you're on the range with the backstop in front of you. Don't load up, don't load down. Those are still safe, but not as safe as pointing at the backstop. I'm not going to point at Joe's face and load it because something could happen. So these are the basic safety rules. You can get on YouTube, check out some more safety rules if you're unfamiliar with weapons or you need some kind of training on how to handle weapons. We will give that to you out there. Just be cognizant of these rules because they're really important and they can save somebody's life. Thanks.